In the age of artificial intelligence, quantum physics, and space colonization, something ancient stirs beneath our modern skin, a whisper from the unconscious, calling us to remember who we are. Amidst the noise of capitalism and the chaos of social media, there is a figure who stands with one foot in the modern world and one in the dream world, the modern shaman. And no one understood this archetype better than Carl Gustav Jung. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who pioneered analytical psychology, was more than just a scientist. He was a modern-day mystic, a soul whisperer, and perhaps unknowingly a shaman of the Western world. His work explored not just the mind, but the spirit, not just science, but symbols. His journey into the deep psyche wasn't just academic, it was a spiritual pilgrimage. Jung dared to go where few psychologists would, into the unconscious, into the dreamscapes of patients, and into the mythological structures that shape our very being. He spoke of archetypes, synchronicity, the shadow, and the self, and in doing so, he became a guide for those seeking healing in a fractured world. He brought the language of the sacred into psychology, grounding the mystical in science. But to understand Jung is not merely to study his theories. It is to live them, to walk into the forest of your own unconscious, to listen to your dreams, to wrestle with your shadow, to reclaim the lost fragments of your soul. This is the path of the modern shaman, and Jung is its mapmaker. The modern shaman is not a man in feathers or a woman with crystals, though they can be. The modern shaman can be an artist, a therapist, a rebel, or a wanderer. It is someone who has died and been reborn, someone who speaks the forgotten language of the soul in a society that worshipped logic. The modern shaman carries wounds, but also the medicine. Carl Jung's journey began with a split between the world of reason, which he inherited from his father, and the world of mystery, which called to him like a siren. Torn between the church and the occult, between science and spirit, Jung was forced to descend into madness before he could emerge with the wisdom that would change psychology forever. His famous Red Book wasn't a textbook, it was a spiritual diary, a descent into the underworld of his own psyche. In it, he met gods, demons, archetypes, all fragments of his deeper self. What modern society would have labeled insanity, Jung called individuation, the necessary process of becoming whole. The first key to understanding Jung is this: the psyche is not linear, it is not neat, it is a labyrinth. And healing is not about fixing symptoms, it's about embarking on a journey. The modern shaman does not avoid pain, he walks into it knowing that the gold is hidden in the dark. Jung taught us that our shadow, the parts of ourselves we repress, is not the enemy. It is the guardian of the treasure. And so the shaman does not fear the dark. He enters it, eyes wide open, armed only with awareness. He does not slay the dragon, he becomes it. In dreams, myths, and ancient traditions, the shaman is the one who journeys beyond the veil, to heal, to retrieve, to understand. Jung brought this into the modern world. He didn't just study myths, he listened to them. He believed that the collective unconscious spoke to us through symbols, and that these symbols, when decoded, could save lives. So who is the modern shaman today? It could be the therapist who sees beyond trauma into the soul, the writer who channels dreams into stories, the musician who sings what cannot be spoken, the rebel who breaks down systems not with rage, but with insight. The modern shaman is awake in a sleeping world. And Jung, he is the elder on this path. His teachings are the sacred texts, his warnings are the signposts, his journey is the map. If Freud was the father of psychology, Jung was the mystic uncle who told you to follow your dreams, literally. To walk the shamanic path in modern life is not to reject science, it is to bring soul back into it. Jung believed that true healing required the union of opposites, reason and intuition, masculine and feminine, conscious and unconscious. He called this individuation, the process of becoming whole. Individuation is not about being perfect, it's about becoming who you truly are. It's about listening to the call within, the voice that's been drowned by expectation, fear, and conditioning. It's about remembering the child you once were, the dreams you abandoned, the emotions you locked away. The modern shaman must first heal himself before he can guide others. Jung's own journey into the unconscious nearly broke him, but he emerged with a gift, a language for the soul. He gave us tools: dream analysis, active imagination, shadow work, and the wisdom of archetypes. These are not just psychological tricks, they are sacred rituals for self-rebirth. In a world that diagnoses every pain and numbs every symptom, Jung reminds us that suffering has meaning, that darkness has wisdom, that symptoms are messages from the soul. The modern shaman listens to these messages and translates them for himself and for others. Jung's influence spread far beyond psychology. He touched artists, poets, spiritual seekers, and rebels. His ideas wove into the fabric of culture, quietly shaping how we see dreams, symbols, and the very idea of self. He planted a seed in the Western psyche, a seed of soul. And now, as the world grows louder, faster, and more disconnected, that seed begins to sprout. The modern shaman rises, not in temples or textbooks, but in living rooms, forests, art studios, and silent meditations. He's not recognized by robes, but by presence, not by titles, but by depth. Jung's life and work teach us that the world outside is a mirror of the world within. That healing begins not with answers but with honest questions. That every symptom is a guidepost, every fear is a threshold, Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart." Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. This wasn't just poetic philosophy, it was a declaration of the soul's forgotten language. And this language, spoken in dreams, myths, and symbols, is the native tongue of the modern shaman. Unlike the sterile language of textbooks and data, the language of the soul is non-linear, mysterious, and alive. It speaks through images, feelings, and synchronicities. It doesn't answer you directly, it invites you to listen deeper. To understand Jung is to become fluent in this symbolic dialogue. And to walk the path of the modern shaman is to live it. At the heart of Jung's work lies a concept so powerful, so revolutionary, that it rewrote the map of psychology: the archetype. These are not just ideas or stories. Archetypes are living forces. They are inherited patterns in the human psyche, shaping how we perceive, behave, and evolve. They are the gods beneath the surface. Imagine them as primal energies: the warrior, the mother, the trickster, the sage. These are not characters in books, they are characters in you. They live within dreams, they animate myths, and they play out in relationships. Jung didn't invent them, he uncovered them. He listened to the stories humanity kept telling across cultures, and he realized we were all singing the same song in different languages. The archetypes dwell in what Jung called the collective unconscious, a shared psychic inheritance, like a spiritual DNA. Just as we inherit biological traits, we also inherit psychic structures. And the modern shaman knows this. He does not see himself as an isolated ego. He knows he is part of a greater psychic ecosystem. In dreams, these archetypes take form: the wise old man, the seductive temptress, the hero facing the abyss, the child crying in the dark. Each image is more than just mental noise. It's a message from the depths. Jung believed dreams were the psyche's attempt to heal, to balance, to guide. While Freud reduced dreams to wish fulfillment and repressed desires, Jung elevated them to sacred visions. He taught that dreams do not lie. They may speak in riddles, but their intent is truth. And to the shaman, ancient or modern, dreams are the sacred script of the soul. The modern shaman keeps the dream journal not as a superstition, but as a sacred ritual. He understands that what appears in his sleep is no accident. The symbols, no matter how strange or disturbing, carry meaning. And in decoding them, he receives guidance no textbook can offer. Jung called this work active imagination, the process of engaging with the images of the unconscious. Rather than analyzing them to death, Jung suggested we interact with them, speak to the dream figures, paint them, dance them, write their stories. This is not madness, this is therapy, this is ritual, this is the shaman's sacred practice. Symbols, Jung said, are bridges between the known and the unknown. They are not signs with fixed meanings, they are living vessels. A snake can mean danger, rebirth, or wisdom, depending on the context. A cave can be a tomb or a womb. The modern shaman doesn't ask, What does this mean universally, he asks. What does this mean for me right now? And therein lies the key. The modern shaman personalizes the myth. He doesn't just read the hero's journey, he lives it. He sees his breakup not just as heartbreak, but as initiation. He sees his anxiety not as a flaw, but as a signal. He reads his depression not as a dead end, but as a descent into the underworld, a necessary darkness before rebirth. In the world of Jung, nothing is random. The external world mirrors the internal. He coined the term synchronicity to describe meaningful coincidences, events that are not causally connected, but deeply significant. The modern shaman pays attention to these moments, a song that plays at just the right time, a stranger's words that echo your thoughts, a dream that bleeds into waking life. These moments are not dismissed as chance, they are acknowledged as messages. The shaman sees life not as a mechanical process, but as a dialogue with the unseen. And Jung was one of the first in modern science to validate that perception. He gave us permission to see the sacred in the ordinary. The archetypes don't just live in dreams, they live in culture, in movies, music, religion, and politics. When millions are captivated by a film, it's not just entertainment, it's archetypal resonance. Why does the hero's journey always grip us? Why do we crave the wise mentor, the final battle, the redemptive return? Because our soul remembers. The modern shaman uses culture as a mirror. He watches not just for pleasure, but for insight. He listens to what stories rise in collective consciousness and what that reveals about our soul's condition. Jung showed us that our personal story is never separate from the world's myth. They are woven together inseparably. But perhaps the most important symbol in Jung's work is the self. Not the ego, the mask we wear, but the self with a capital S, the totality of who we are. The center that holds the opposites, the divine blueprint within. Every archetype, every dream, every shadow, all of it points to the self. And the modern shaman's goal is not to be good, not to be right, but to be whole. Wholeness means integration. It means embracing both light and dark, joy and sorrow, masculine and feminine, reason and madness. The shaman walks this razor's edge, not seeking to escape duality, but to hold it. And Jung's work offers the roadmap for this sacred integration. To ignore the archetypes is to live unconsciously. To embrace them is to reclaim power. Jung warned that what we do not face in the unconscious, every culture that has birthed shamans, mystics, or sages shares one truth. To heal others, you must first confront your own darkness. Carl Jung understood this intimately. He did not see healing as sunshine and positivity. He saw it as a descent into the abyss. And at the core of this descent lies the shadow. The shadow, in Jungian terms, is everything within us that we repress, reject, or disown. It's not just evil or aggression. It can be power, sexuality, ambition, or even creativity. The shadow is whatever you've been taught you shouldn't be. It hides not because it is weak, but because it is powerful. The modern shaman does not run from the shadow, he dances with it. He understands that light alone cannot heal. True healing happens when light meets the dark and does not flinch. And Jung's work offers the clearest path for this sacred confrontation, a process he called shadow work. To Jung, facing the shadow was not optional. It was essential. He warned that what we deny within ourselves becomes projected outward onto people, situations, ideologies. You hate in others what you fear in yourself. You condemn in the world what you've buried in your soul. This is the dark mirror. And the shaman uses it to see clearly. Shadow work begins with honesty, brutal, unsentimental honesty. The shaman asks, what am I pretending not to feel? What am I afraid to admit about myself? What would happen if I took off the mask? These are dangerous questions because they lead to freedom. And the ego fears nothing more than losing control. Jung famously said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The shadow isn't just a dark idea, it's an active force. When ignored, it sabotages relationships, feeds addiction, inflates the ego, and creates a false self. But when integrated, it becomes strength, clarity, and wholeness. The modern shaman isn't interested in appearing perfect. He knows that the journey to He allows himself to rage, to weep, to fall apart, because only in that raw vulnerability does the real self emerge. Not the persona, the mask we show the world, but the deeper self that has been waiting to be acknowledged. Jung introduced the idea of the persona, the social mask we wear to fit in. While necessary, the persona becomes dangerous when we believe it is who we truly are. The shaman sheds the persona like a snakeskin. He doesn't live to be liked, he lives to be real. But the shadow is not just personal, it is collective. Just as individuals have repressed traits, so do cultures. Racism, war, oppression, fanaticism, these are not random evils, they are shadows of the collective psyche. And the modern shaman must be able to see both personal and societal shadows, not to judge, but to understand. Jung believed that evil was not something out there. It was within, and unless we face it, we project it onto others. This was one of his most controversial and courageous insights, especially in the wake of World War II. He saw how ideology could mask inner wounds, how mass movements were often psychological possessions. To do shadow work is to reclaim what you have projected, to say, that anger is mine, that jealousy is mine, that desire is mine. And in doing so, you pull back your power, because every piece of the shadow holds energy, and when you integrate it, that energy returns to you like a lost limb reattached. The shaman knows that darkness is not the enemy, unconsciousness is. He does not fear the monster under the bed. He invites it to speak. He lights a candle in the cave and asks, "What are you trying to teach me?" And the monster, surprised by compassion, begins to transform. Jung wrote about the wounded healer, the idea that our deepest pain can become our medicine. The modern shaman lives this. His wound is not a weakness, it is the portal through which he connects with others. He does not pretend to be healed, he walks with the limp of experience, and that limp is sacred. We've been taught to hide our wounds, to sanitize them, to cover them with positive affirmations and empty smiles. But Jung challenged us to see wounds as initiations. They are not there to destroy us, they are there to strip away illusion, to burn off ego, to reveal the soul beneath. The wounded healer archetype teaches us that your pain is not in vain. Your heartbreak, your loss, your trauma, they shape your medicine. The modern shaman doesn't offer advice from a pedestal. He offers his scars as bridges, his story as a map, his survival as proof. Jung's own descent into the depths, his so-called creative illness, was not just a breakdown. It was a breakthrough. He confronted voices, visions, chaos. He met gods and demons in his inner world. He did not suppress them, he listened. He recorded them in the Red Book. And from that darkness came a light that still guides millions.